Oh snap, the same look. I bet you're wondering where you're going to see this look. Hi guys, I'd like to welcome you guys all back to my channel, and today I'm here to talk about my April reads and my May TBR. Because I've been working so hard on opening my Etsy shop, which by the way, if you haven't seen that video, I linked it up here and you can check down below for the shop. I did not get as much reading as I normally do get done. Not a lot at all, actually. So I decided to just combine my April reads and my May reads together so that I can just get them together in a way, because things have been a little hectic if you haven't been able to tell. So the first book that I finished in the month of April is Still Me by Jojo Moyes, which I had planned on reading in my March TBR, but I did not get to actually finish reading it until April, so I'm adding it in here to make myself feel a little better. But it is the third installment of the Still Me, After Me, Before Me, you know, that series that had one movie that really tugged at your heartstrings. And yeah, so I don't know. This book was particularly about her finding herself and really establishing her identity. And I must say, I like the way that part of the book was done, but the love story part, I was like, living in a fairy tale world, if you think that you can go chase your dreams like that and then the man of your dreams is going to drop everything for you. I don't know who's got that kind of love story, but like, I'm way past the Disney era, so I know that part was crap. I absolutely hated the ending. Like, when the book was over, I was just like, ugh. Like, she just had to make this corny cliche, like, ugh. I wasn't interested. So I did give it like a 3 out of 5, I think, on Goodreads. So I was like, whatever. The second disappointment and book that I read for the month of April is Rainbirds by Clarissa Gowan, I think. I'll correct myself if I was wrong. I listened to this via audiobook because for some reason my library did not have this book. So luckily Hoopla did, but this book was trash. Okay. So the premise of this book is that Ren Ashita ends up having to go to where his sister was because she died. She was viciously stabbed to death and left for dead. They have no idea who did it. So he actually was supposed to be coming back to figure out what happened to his sister while essentially living in his sister's shoes. So he ended up working at the school that she worked at. He ended up living in the place where she lived. And literally, the book was about him trying not to fetishize about one of his 16-year-old, 17-year-old students. Like, sorry guys, dude is looking at me funny, so I had to look at him funny too. But yeah, so you think that you're like, okay, this is gonna be like a good mystery book, like I'm really gonna be able to, like, we're gonna see some stuff, I'm gonna get some clues, I'm gonna be able to guess who did it, who didn't. And they alluded to one person, and then it literally became him and 7 stars. And if you know who 7 stars is because you read the book, then you will know that she's an underage girl, and like, he's spending time with her even though he knows he shouldn't be spending time with her. So I'm like, is this a book about statutory rape, or is this a book about murder? Like, I don't know. I felt like the whole premise of the book is extremely misleading as opposed to what the majority of the book was about. Because then when it came around the time to reveal what actually happened to her, it was like a brush off. It was kind of like, oh, bro, I can't believe you. You know where my ice cream is? I can't find it. Who ate it? Let's find out who ate my ice cream. Oh, bro, you ate it? All right, cool. Like, that's exactly how the book was without me giving it away. I was just like, that's it. Like, I don't know. The book was really hyped, in my opinion. Like, apparently it's gotten awards, and I'm trying to figure out who gave the awards, because though the book was well written, I felt like it had a lot of description. There were a lot of symbolisms with Japanese culture and the way that she chose to describe the things in her book, but the actual story of the book was trash. So yeah, Rainbirds. The next audiobook that I listened to is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, and I highly recommend this book. But I recommend you buy the book and listen to the audiobook, because the audiobook is read by the author, and it makes this book so much more fantastic. This book is told in slam poetry form, so if you've never heard of that, trust me, Google it, you'll love it. But it's told in that form, but it still tells the story. Like, it's still going through a specific story. It's fantastic. Loved it. I actually did a review on this. This is my next makeup review book. So look out for that coming soon. The next book that I read is the second installment for Naninde Okorafor, and that is Akata Warrior. I talked about Akata Witch, of course, so I was very, very excited to read this. And I kind of feel disappointed. And it wasn't, I don't know. I feel like maybe I need to go back and read it again when I'm not completely like wound up and stressed out. But I felt like it dragged a lot. Essentially, it's yet again, they've got to do something to save the world again. But what actually happens is very confusing to me. So I know that I have to go back and read this again. I also know that this is only the second of a trilogy. So sometimes the second is weird like that. Like, it didn't leave me in a place where I felt like I needed to know more, except in terms of Chi-Chi. Other than that, I didn't really feel like this book was amazing. Like, I loved the first one, but this one kind of let me down. I'm not saying that it was terrible. I'm saying that, like, compared to the first one, it wasn't as good. So there's that one. The last book that I read in April, yes, the last, I told y'all I did not read a lot, is Rebel in the Sands by Alwyn Hamilton. And I surprisingly liked this story despite the random love that was thrown in there. This story is about a girl named Amani who lives in this desert, and she ends up getting in contact with this foreigner who they end up going on an adventure trying to find the rebel prince, and they end up having to like stick on his side and all that stuff. I really loved the development of Amani. I feel like as the story progressed, I felt like I liked her more, because in the beginning, she was kind of a cliche. She was a girl pretending to be a dude because she wants respect. Because, of course, in most dystopian or most fantasy worlds, girls don't get no respect. So she was trying to do that. But with the development of the story, I kind of felt like she progressed too. I'm not really too sure about Jin. Like, he was there mainly as a support for her. And, of course, he's the love interest. And the way the love comes about, again, I'm confused, because this book, it's like, I don't know. I like it. I am going to continue the series. Obviously, y'all know I don't quit series just because I may or may not like it. So, I will be definitely going on to the next one. So as far as the books that I plan on finishing for May, the audiobook that I'm actually listening to right now is the Diary of Elizabeth Schuyler Hamilton. That was the book that I wanted to read in April, but y'all, I could not. The waiting list for this particular book at my library is like 23 people deep before my name. So luckily, there's an audiobook available on Hoopla. So I said, cool. The audiobook is 23 hours long. And like I said, I haven't been able, normally I can listen to audiobooks when I do work, but I haven't been able to because I just haven't. So I think I'm on hour 14. I'm on hour 14 of the book. So I'm still reading that. Maybe I'll finish it. Who knows at this point? I've been listening to it for the past 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, about 2 weeks I've been listening to this book. Another book that I would really like to get to is Every Heart a Doorway. It's so short, and yet I have not been able to sit down and start reading a book in like a week because of this Etsy shop thing. But I don't really know what it's about. I forgot, but check my other TBR will tell you what I thought about what this book was about. The next book that I want to read is it's another one from my birthday haul, and it is The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman. I really want to read Practical Magic, but somebody says that this is the prequel to Practical Magic, so I figure maybe I could read this book first and then go back to that one. Honestly, it says it's a spellbinding prequel to her bestseller Practical Magic. So it's about the kids who have these powers, and no walking in the moonlight, no red shoes, no wearing black, no cats, no crows. Oh, so she's trying to suppress her children with their magic. So interesting. Again, don't really know what it's about, but we're going to love it anyway. So you guys can probably hear me a lot clearer now because I'm on my phone, because I wrote down the other books that I wanted to read, but I wrote them down on my phone like a dummy. But then I'm also doing my voice on the phone, so forgive me. But let's see. So, the next book that I want to read for the month of May is a book that actually comes out in May. And that is, of course, War Storm by Victoria Aveyard. As you guys know, I actually really liked King's Cage. So I am looking forward to this climactic end. I think this is the final book. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the final installment of the Red Queen series. I hope. Because I don't know if I want to continue it past that. But this is where Cal has gone back to be king, or to claim his throne, leaving Mare's, pathetic self by herself, or with her rebels. So now it's supposed to be Cal versus Maven versus Mare. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I'm praying that she does it from a multiple person perspective like she did in A King's Cage. And I hope that we get to hear from Cal and Maven. That would make my heart so happy. The next book that I want to read is another book that's been getting a whole lot of hype, not only on BookTube, but I've also heard some of my podcasts hype it up, and that is Dread Nation by Justyna Ireland. I do know that the audiobook for this particular book is available on Hoopla, but essentially it's like the Civil War but with zombies, and it's about a Black girl during that time. So I'm like, Southern racism and zombies. I'm a little skeptical because they also did Pride and Prejudice and zombies, and y'all know that was a disaster. So I don't know how to feel about this book, but I am going to give it a try because it is an audiobook. And again, sometimes audiobooks are just the way to go. The next book that I want to read for May was a book that I actually won a Goodreads giveaway for, which I didn't even realize it till recently. And it is The Elephant Keeper's Daughter by Julia Johnston. And essentially this book is set in a place where being the elephant keeper is a high esteem job. So it's like one of those ones that's like, oh, your family is so magnificent because they take care of the elephants. However, it is a job passed down from man to man, and they have a daughter. So they end up dressing up their daughter and treating her like a boy most of her life until, lo and behold, this girl hits a moment where she wants to be a girl. Who would have thought? But I'm intrigued to see how it goes just because I won the book, so I figured why not read the book. The next book that I want to read that I specifically waited until all the hype died down, until all the subscription boxes stopped talking about it, is Hazelwood by Melissa Albert. I have not watched any reviews about this particular book just because I actually did want to read it. I just didn't want to read it when everybody else was reading it because I don't know. I just felt like I read Children of Blood and Bone. Review up there. Because I've been waiting for that book before BookTube started hyping that book up. So that doesn't count. But this one, I heard about it through BookTube, and I just refused to jump on the BookTube bandwagon, even though I love the cover of one of the subscription box ones. I'm going to just get it from the library and decide what I do from there. The next book that I want to read is Cersei by Madeline Miller. This is another book that BookTube seems to like, which I didn't realize when I put it on my list of books to read this month, but it's a retelling of the story of Cersei, and I love those type of things. I love retellings, so it's all the more reason for me to just embrace it and deal with the fact that I'm following BookTube. It is what it is. The final book that I want to read for May is Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton. It's the second book in the Rebel of the Sand series. And yeah, I don't really have to go further than that. The rebel prince has claimed a portion of the Sultan's land, and Amani just learned that she can do some cool stuff, and we're starting from there. So yeah, those are the books that I read in April and the books that I plan on reading in May. My question to you guys is, what is your favorite book so far in 2018? And how many books have you read? I am leaving a Goodreads link down below. Hopefully we can follow each other and chat about it. Thank you guys so much for checking out my channel, and until the next time, guys, bye.